For the first time all season, I can really say that I was a fantasy winner this past week. Yeah, I've had a couple of wins here and there, but this was the best week that I had in fantasy. So I'm a little bit more excited to dive into it with Joe Pisapia, who you can catch every Sunday morning on Fantasy Sports Today, and of course on Fantasy Pros as well. Joe was savvy, got ahead of some things, and ended up helping myself off the waiver wire, which definitely led to my win. And a couple of the names we're going to talk about in the winners are on my list. Go figure there. So welcome
There
back
you
to the
go.
show.
Well, it's good that you had a good week. I like that. Look, it's a long season, everybody. It gets longer every
It is.
year. Patience, 0-4 is tough. That's a tough thing to have to stomach through the month of September. But it's a new month. It's a fresh start. It's a fresh W for Craig Mish. So there's some fresh guys in the waiver wire we'll talk about, and a lot of really great performances, I think, from last week, especially from some of those backup running backs who people had to pick up and stream. It seemed like every
Yeah.
day or every hour we were losing another running back. So by the time you got to waiver wire this week, most of them are gone.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there. We'll get to the Charger situation. That'll be the one I think that there would be some possibilities there. But the fantasy winners for Joe this past week, hey, two guys on my team, Emeka Egbuka, who was like the best pick in all of fantasy football this season. Better to be lucky than good. I didn't see this coming. He's been incredible. And then I look when, last week, Joe, before the weekend, before things got started, I saw some reports on Trey Benson. I thought to myself, if I don't get ahead of this now and something ends up happening, I'm going to regret it. So I did pick up Michael Carter. He had 51 yards. He had a touchdown, and maybe he'll get the next one too, because this DeMercado guy completely blew it.
He certainly did. Look, Michael Carter certainly got a good run of that backfield, 18 attempts. That's what you want to see. You want to see him getting the volume and the goal line work. And speaking of goal line, obviously, DeMercado, we'll get to that in just a second. But he also had a couple of receptions, too, 5 of 5 there. So 5 targets, 5 catches. That's also important. So Carter, a very valuable pickup. We'll get more on him. But look, Egbuka, to me, is the breakout star of this year. He is number one on the rookie of the year list right now. And
Yep.
I think if you're looking forward and projecting to 2026, he's going to be somebody, I think, taken somewhere around 10, 11, 12 potentially. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
saying, like,
Yeah.
there's definitely a spot there for him with Mike Evans and Godwin aging up here, that Emeka Egbuka is viewed as possibly even a top 10 pick in fantasy next season. So if you have him, and I do in a bunch of leagues, it was a great day. We had the overs on FST on him. That hit. In fact, we're 8-0 the last 2 weeks on all of those fantasy props. So hopefully you're watching there, even if you don't play fantasy and you're wagering. Very useful stuff. But I think the real breakout, the real winners, how about those Patriots? Drake May, an incredible performance, big time throws in big spots, making plays. Stephon Diggs having an incredible back-to-back 100-yard gains there for him in back-to-back games. So this was a huge victory for a number of reasons. And the biggest one is, if you look at the Patriots schedule now upcoming, it gets a lot easier. They got New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, and Atlanta. There's a good chance they could win 4 in a row. And if they do, all of a sudden, because they've won in Buffalo, that puts a lot of pressure on the Buffalo Bills to keep pace with them. And potentially then they have to go and play them again. Where are they playing them? Obviously, this time around it's going to be in New England. So we'll see how that goes. I think the Buffalo Bills are still the team to beat in that division. But the Patriots looked like a playoff team, and the defense with Christian Gonzalez, totally different with him on the field, very physical. And I think that was a huge victory that could really turn the season around for the Patriots. And in terms of fantasy, Stephon Diggs, rest of season, probably a top 20 wide receiver as well.
So let's hit the waiver wire. Oh, you want to do the losers first? I'm sorry, the losers now
Oh,
in
we have
fantasy.
to we have to talk about the
DeMercado,
losers.
the biggest loser of the season with that. Not only did he just let go of that touchdown, but there still are leagues out there, Joe. When you score a long touchdown, they give you the extra points too. Definitely he was the case, and without a doubt, the Jets. And then this last guy is actually somebody I played a couple of weeks ago. I took a shot with Geno Smith. I'm going to cut him this week.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that you don't see Geno Smith start this week, or if he does start, that he doesn't finish the game. Kenny Pickett would be the pivot point there. It's not a great pivot point, but you can't turn the ball over. He's leading the league in interceptions. He got more interceptions than he does touchdowns at this point, and that's just something you can't handle. I know Brock Bowers' injury hasn't helped, but look, they've got to stop turning the football over. It's killing fantasy points, and it's killing drives, and it's killing the Raiders right now. Also, the Jets are killing their fans. They are the only team without a win here heading into week 6. It's the earliest, by the way, since 2005 that we've got a team that is actually that no undefeated teams, right? So by week 5,
Right.
Bills were the last one. They're done. So it's been almost 20 years since that happened. and we have just one team without a win, and it's the New York Jets. And I thought that, like a lot of people, that Aaron Glenn would bring a different level of defense and toughness and mental toughness to this team. And once that fumble happened, it's funny, it was a 10-3 game there, just about to the end of the half. And then that Breece Hall fumble happened, and then you have that punch in for that touchdown of Javonte Williams. The next thing you know, the 17-3 just opens up even more in the third quarter, and it's gone. So really tough situation there for all of the above. And in terms of the other loser, too, I mean, Amari Dermacano, I don't know what there is to say, except the fact that it just happened the week before, and it was everywhere again, and people were talking about it. I don't know how that's not in your head as an offensive player, that you are making sure that you're carrying that football over to the goal line. Frankly, it's unprofessional. If they had just cut him on the spot, it wouldn't have shocked me. I know he didn't mean it. I know it's just a bad look, but this is the pros right now, and you can't make those kind of mistakes, Craig.
Yeah, he came back in and played. I couldn't believe it, even at the end of the game, that he did that. Also, some whispers, I see if this picks up, of potentially Breece Hall. Again, whispers, maybe going from the Jets to the Chargers. That would be a heck of a pickup if they were able to make that deal somewhere around the deadline. We will see. All right, so waiver wire targets here. I don't think Michael Carter is available in most leagues at this point, but 39%. Everybody else here, I think, is. So Mason Taylor and Theo Johnson, the tight ends. The guy from Gremlins, Kyle Monagai, 10%, running back on the Bears. Kendrick Bourne had the game of his life. And then you'll tell me right now how things will work out in the Chargers backfield. I mean, I don't know. I mean, finally, does this guy Kimani Vidal make everybody right from like 3 years ago? I don't think so. I don't think they have anyone
I don't
there.
think so either. I don't think so either, but I think the one thing you do want to pay attention to is in the next 24 to 48 hours, they've elevated him from the practice squad twice. Now, they can only do that one more time before they have to sign him to the roster. If they sign him to the roster, that's a commitment maybe to Kimani Vidal that you could say, okay, maybe there is something here that we should pay attention to. However, I'm with you. I think it's Hassan Haskins for the next couple weeks here, where Amari Hampton is going to be out. Haskins is a guy that played at Michigan with Harbaugh. I think there's a comfortability factor there. I think he's got some limitations, but in terms of goal line work, that's going to be your guy. And I would not be shocked if the Chargers did make some kind of move. I don't know who it would be for. The Breece Hall would be a big one if that's the case. And you hear those rumblings, Isaiah Davis is the guy to pick up right now, because Braylon Allen's going to be out for a while. So if you want to kind of circumvent this whole situation, Isaiah Davis probably should be rostered anyway. You're right about Michael Carter as well. Michael Carter is rostered in about 59% already on sleeper leagues, but on Yahoo, just 39%, which I thought was really odd. Now, I know Yahoo and ESPN have a lot of dead teams on it and some shallow leagues, right? 10-team leagues where maybe we're not looking that hard at some of these running backs sometimes. But if he's floating around there, he's still the number one pickup of the week. You're right. Chasing Kendrick Bourne is a tenuous situation. I think you have to maybe add him for a couple bucks, see what happens. Kyle Monangai, I think, is really interesting because DeAndre Swift has not looked good. In the last game he played, the stink of that game got covered up by a touchdown. And there's a world where Kyle Monangai starts to become the David Montgomery in this offense, just the way they were in Detroit, where there was two running backs. And I think it's going to be really interesting because people will sort their free agents. They won't see any stats from Monangai because he was on a bye. He's a guy you can sneak through the waiver wire, which I really do like. And look, you're right. It's a tough situation because you have to make that call how much you want to spend on a guy like Haskins, where you don't know how long it's going to last, what it's going to look like. But right now, the Chargers are in a tough spot. They've gone from 3-0 start to potentially staring at an 0-3 over the next 3 games. The offensive line having massive issues, losing not one but 2 running backs. There's a lot of problems right now, losing Khalil Mack. Between them and the Ravens, you've seen some of these big-time AFC teams just get riddled and destroyed with injuries, and it's really hurting all the fantasy properties. Look at Derrick Henry, look at Mark Andrews, these guys that we thought would be really solid this year. No Lamar Jackson. We see what happens next.
By the way, you mentioned those 2 tight ends. I've been holding on to Evan Ingram, and I saw something that I thought I'd been seeing all season long. It finally happened in the fourth quarter. Can he build on that, you think?
He can, but I think Mason Taylor right now is already the number 2 in that Jets offense, and I think Theo Johnson, especially if Slayton is out, is a great streamer this week. So I would take both of those guys over Evan Ingram this week.
Got it, Joe. Thanks again.